Reality isn't what you think. You weren't taught to understand the truth. You were trained to ignore it. From birth, your perception was shaped by systems that never wanted you to realize the power you carry inside you. You've been told that life is random, that consciousness is a byproduct of the brain, and that your thoughts are just background noise. But none of that is true. The real laws that govern this world, the mechanics of creation, transformation, and influence, have been hidden in plain sight for centuries. And the Kybalion is one of the few surviving texts that lays them bare. This isn't mystical fluff or abstract theory. These are raw, ancient principles that were never meant to be watered down. Once you understand them, you stop playing the game and start bending it. This is your moment to remember what they made you forget. That you are not a passive observer in this world. You're the architect. You've been conditioned to dismiss the very truths that could set you free. The idea that the universe operates on invisible laws, that your mind shapes matter, that thoughts ripple across dimensions, that reality itself is built on frequency and correspondence, wasn't just ignored in your education. It was deliberately buried. The Kybalion doesn't tell you what to believe. It tells you how reality functions. And that kind of knowledge is dangerous to systems built on control. Look around. From school curriculums to modern science, from mainstream spirituality to pop culture, the message is always the same. Stay grounded, stay rational, stay inside the lines. They push you toward facts, figures, external sources of truth. They want you to think that anything metaphysical is superstition or fantasy. But why? Because the moment you understand the laws laid out in the Kybalion, mentalism, correspondence, vibration, polarity, rhythm, cause and effect, gender, you realize something terrifying to them and liberating to you. Reality is programmable, and your consciousness is the key. Think about what that means. If all is mind, then every structure you live within, economies, ideologies, identities, can be rewritten. If everything vibrates, then you can tune your state to attract or repel outcomes. If cause and effect governs all, then you're not a victim of circumstance. You're a participant in an infinite loop you didn't know you were feeding. This is the kind of insight that turns people into creators, not consumers. And that's exactly why these teachings were hidden, diluted, or ridiculed. Most people have heard fragments of these ideas through New Age memes, misunderstood affirmations, or motivational catchphrases, but they've never been given the full map. That's not accidental. The Kybalion was passed down through secret schools and mystery traditions for a reason, because it reveals how to operate reality from the inside out. And those who rule the world do so by using these very principles while convincing you they're fantasy. You were taught that matter is solid, that thoughts are harmless, that magic is fiction. But they use mentalism to influence entire populations through suggestion and repetition. They use polarity to divide society into opposites that feed the same system. They use rhythm to predict your behavior and turn your highs and lows into profit. The Hermetic laws were never lost, they were monopolized. That's why this matters now. The illusion is wearing thin. More people are feeling the glitch in the narrative, sensing that what we've been told doesn't add up. The Kybalion doesn't ask you to believe, it dares you to observe, to see reality not through belief but through patterns. Because once you recognize the architecture of this realm, you stop reacting and start creating. Some truths are too raw for YouTube. That's why we've put the deeper insights inside our free Insights Academy newsletter, including a limited-time copy of the Kybalion ebook. Links in the description, don't miss this. Once you begin to look through this new lens, things stop being random. Coincidences become messages. Pain becomes feedback. Energy becomes language. And suddenly, you're not lost in the chaos of life. You're reading the code. That's the true danger of the Kybalion. It doesn't just wake you up. It makes you powerful. And power is the one thing they never wanted you to realize you already had. Everything begins in the mind. Not metaphorically, literally. The Kybalion's first and most fundamental principle, mentalism, states that all is mind. The universe is mental. What you call reality is the projection of an infinite consciousness, and everything you experience, every moment, person, event, is rooted in mental vibration. That means your thoughts aren't small. They're not background noise. They are the blueprint of your life, shaping your world moment by moment, whether you're aware of it or not. This isn't about just thinking positively. That's the commercialized version, diluted and packaged to sound inspiring without giving you real power. The truth is deeper and more demanding. Every single thought you entertain is a ripple, a frequency that communicates with the field around you. If you constantly think in fear, you become a match for fearful experiences. If you hold beliefs of lack, life will mirror scarcity back to you. Your inner state is not just private. It's the seed of every outer experience you have. You are the generator. The world teaches you to look outward. When something goes wrong, you look for the problem outside yourself. When something goes right, you call it luck. But the Kybalion flips the lens. The outer world is a mirror of the inner. The mind isn't a lens you look through. It's the projector. Every emotion, every belief, every expectation programs the hologram you walk through daily. Change the program, and the projection changes too. But here's the catch. Most people aren't running their own minds. They're running inherited scripts, absorbed from childhood, media, school, trauma, and culture. They're reacting, not creating. Mentalism doesn't just reveal the creative power of thought, it reveals the responsibility. You're always shaping your world, even when you're not conscious of it. And that's where most people get trapped. They're unintentionally broadcasting self-doubt, insecurity, shame, and wondering why life feels so heavy. To harness this principle, you have to reclaim your mental space like sacred ground. It's not about suppressing negativity, but observing your thoughts like data. Where did this thought come from? Is it mine? Is it serving me? That simple awareness begins the shift. Because once you're aware, you're no longer reacting to your mind. You're directing it. And the more intentional your thoughts become, the more your reality begins to respond with precision. Mentalism also explains why ritual, prayer, and intention setting work. It's not superstition, it's mechanics. Focused thought plus belief equals creation. That's the formula. It doesn't matter whether you chant in silence or write your goals in a notebook. What matters is that you align your internal frequency with the outcome you desire. That alignment isn't just spiritual, it's law. This principle alone can shatter the victim mindset. You're not stuck, you're not cursed, you're not powerless. You're broadcasting a signal, and the universe, like a perfectly tuned mirror, is responding. The Kybalion doesn't ask you to just think better. It demands you own your mental power. Because the truth is, you're not here to chase reality. You're here to create it. Nothing in this universe stands alone. The ancient Hermetic principle of correspondence says it plainly. As above, so below. As below, so above. It's not a poetic idea. It's a code. This law reveals that every level of reality, from the microscopic to the cosmic, is interconnected. What happens on one plane echoes through all others. And when you understand this, you unlock the ability to read reality like a language, to decode your inner world through your outer experiences, and vice versa. You've seen this principle at work, whether you knew it or not. Your body mirrors the patterns of the universe. The structure of your lungs mimics the branching of trees. The neural networks in your brain reflect the structure of galaxies. The cycle of the moon affects the tides in your blood just as it moves the oceans. These aren't coincidences. They are fractals, repeating expressions of a single source code that flows through everything. When something feels aligned, it's because the patterns are resonating across levels. When life feels off, it's usually because you're trying to fix something external that began internally. This is why the Kybalion's teachings are not abstract, they're diagnostic. When you're sick, it's not just a physical issue. It could be the result of unresolved emotional energy. When you feel blocked financially, it may reflect a deeper fear of receiving or an unconscious belief in scarcity. Correspondence teaches you to look at life symbolically, not just literally. Everything happening in your life points to something else. Your external circumstances are the readout of your internal state. That means nothing is meaningless. Every problem, every moment of discomfort, every pattern you repeat is pointing somewhere, offering a map. The job isn't to fix the symptoms, but to understand the message. The Kybalion teaches that if you want to shift your reality, you must become a student of patterns. Look at your life like a system. What repeats? Where's the feedback loop? What keeps showing up in different forms with the same emotional signature? Once you see the link, the healing begins. Correspondence also works upwards. If you want to understand the cosmos, study yourself. Your body is a miniature universe. Your heart is the sun. Your breath is the wind. Your thoughts are weather patterns that shape your internal climate. Spiritual seekers often try to escape the body or transcend the material world, but Hermetic wisdom teaches the opposite. You aren't separate from the divine. You're a direct expression of it. As above, so below. The sacred isn't somewhere else. It's in your cells, your struggles, your daily rituals. The world is full of people looking for signs, but when you truly grasp the principle of correspondence, you realize that everything is a sign. Dreams, symbols, synchronicities, they aren't random. They're data from a higher plane, filtered into this one. And when you begin to read that data, you stop feeling like life is happening to you and start feeling like it's communicating with you. That shift alone changes everything. You no longer chase answers, you observe the patterns. And in doing so, you begin to align with the rhythm of creation itself. You've been taught to live in a world of opposites, good and evil, success and failure, love and hate, light and dark. The illusion is so convincing, you start to believe these forces are enemies, locked in eternal battle. But the Kybalion reveals something deeper, something that shatters the illusion. Everything is dual, but duality is not division. What you think of as opposites are really just extremes of the same thing. They're not different in nature, only in degree. Hot and cold? Both are temperatures. Rich and poor? Both are states of abundance measured at different points. Love and hate? Both are emotional investments in someone or something. The energy is the same, the direction is what changes. When you truly understand this, you stop fighting life. You begin to transmute it. That's the essence of the Hermetic principle of polarity, the ability to shift your state by recognizing the illusion of extremes and learning how to move along the spectrum. This law isn't just philosophical, it's deeply practical. Think of your emotional states. Depression and joy aren't different substances. They're different frequencies on the same scale. If you're locked in fear, you don't need to destroy fear. You need to move up the scale, just slightly, towards courage. From there, you shift again, from courage to hope, from hope to clarity, from clarity to peace. Transmutation isn't about escape. It's about movement. And once you learn how to move, your emotions stop controlling you. You start directing them. The system we live in thrives on polarity because it thrives on conflict. Left versus right. Us versus them. You're conditioned to pick a side, fight the opposite, and stay trapped in a binary that benefits someone else. But polarity isn't just a political weapon. It's a spiritual prison. If you're stuck in black and white thinking, you're easily manipulated. You can't create from that space. You can only react. But when you understand that every negative emotion carries within it the seed of its counterpart, you gain power. Anger contains passion. Fear contains the will to protect. Sadness contains love. You can extract the energy without being ruled by the form. That's what emotional alchemy is. Taking dense, heavy energy and converting it into something useful, something aligned. And the Kybalion doesn't tell you to suppress or ignore what you feel. It tells you to refine it. This changes how you deal with yourself. You stop labeling your emotions as good or bad. You stop chasing constant positivity and start seeking clarity. You realize that the goal isn't to live on one side of the spectrum, it's to navigate it consciously. And this shift is where real spiritual maturity begins. Not in pretending to be above darkness, but in learning how to wield it. Not in denying pain, but in using it as fuel for your evolution. You start to notice how everything has a hidden symmetry. Challenges bring growth. Loss clears space for gain. Silence gives meaning to sound. The opposites don't cancel each other out. They complete each other. And when you can hold both without being thrown off balance, you've stepped into true mastery. This is what the Kybalion teaches. Not how to escape the world, but how to master its mechanics. Not how to transcend emotion, but how to alchemize it into wisdom. And once you understand that nothing is truly separate, not even within yourself, you begin to live in alignment, not as a fragmented self chasing peace, but as a unified force creating it. Life moves in waves. Nothing stays still. There are seasons in everything: your energy, your relationships, your finances, your mind. You rise, you fall, you expand, you contract. The Kybalion names this movement for what it truly is: rhythm. And like all Hermetic principles, this isn't metaphor, it's law. Rhythm is the pendulum swing of existence. It governs the tides, the planets, the breath, the heartbeat. And yes, it governs your life. The problem is, most people don't know they're being pulled by the swing. They think their highs are random victories and their lows are personal failures. But neither is true. They're both predictable. Rhythm always seeks balance. What goes up must come down, not as punishment, but as correction. The universe compensates for extremes. If you rise too fast in ego, you may find yourself pulled back into humility. If you sink too deep into despair, life often nudges you toward a breakthrough. These aren't random events. They're the echo of rhythm at work. But here's the part no one tells you. The swing can be neutralized. You don't have to ride it blindly. The Kybalion teaches that with awareness, you can anticipate the swing and anchor your state, remaining steady while others are tossed around by the tides. Most people get caught in reaction. They chase the highs, dopamine, excitement, validation, only to crash when they inevitably lose that stimulation. Then they panic in the lows, confusion, setbacks, boredom, and scramble for quick fixes. It's exhausting. It's also avoidable, because the swing is only dangerous when you identify with it. When you forget that you're the observer of the wave, not the wave itself, you suffer needlessly. But when you remember your center, you move with rhythm without losing yourself to it. This ties directly into the principle of cause and effect. Everything you experience is the result of a cause. Nothing just happens. And if you don't create the cause, you'll live by someone else's. The Kybalion makes this clear. The masses are ruled by effect. They react to politics, media, social pressure, and collective moods. They are the pawns in a game of influence they don't even know they're playing. But the initiate, the one who understands the laws, moves differently. They create the cause. They act, while others react. That is the difference between the operator and the operated. Your thoughts, words, and emotions are seeds. What you plant, you harvest. There's no shortcut, no bypass. If you sow in fear, you reap in fear. If you act in truth, you receive clarity. Understanding cause and effect frees you from randomness. It kills the victim narrative, and it forces you to ask the hard questions. What am I choosing right now? What energy am I investing in? What consequences am I setting in motion? When you pair rhythm and cause and effect, you become something rare, stable in chaos. You understand that a low doesn't mean failure. It's the backswing before a new rise. You see that consistent thought and action compound, like gravity in your favor. You stop being shocked by life, because you understand it's responding to you. And when the pendulum swings, you ride it with grace. Not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. The Kybalion isn't promising you immunity from life's changes. It's giving you the tools to navigate them with precision. Rhythm is real, so is karma, so is alignment. But none of them are fixed. The more you understand the flow, the more you can move with it, and ultimately, shape it. That's what it means to live not at the mercy of reality, but as its conscious co-creator. You've been lied to about what gender is. For most, it's reduced to biology, identity, or politics. But the Kybalion strips all that noise away and shows you something far more essential. Gender is a principle of creation itself. It exists not just in bodies, but in thoughts, energy, ideas, and the very structure of the universe. The principle of gender states that everything contains both masculine and feminine qualities, and these two forces are always working together whether you realize it or not. Every thought you think, every intention you birth into reality, every manifestation you desire, it all happens through the interplay of these two energies. The masculine is directive. It gives form, pushes forward, initiates, penetrates. The feminine is receptive. It nurtures, holds, expands, gives birth. Neither is superior. Both are essential. In fact, nothing can be created without the dance between them, and that includes your own life. The reason many people feel blocked, stagnant, or unfulfilled isn't because they lack resources or motivation. It's because their inner masculine and feminine are at war, or worse, one has been completely suppressed. You've been taught to favor one over the other. Society rewards the masculine: action, logic, drive, discipline. Meanwhile, the feminine, intuition, receptivity, flow, emotion, is seen as weak or secondary. But this imbalance creates chaos, both personally and globally. When the masculine dominates without the feminine, you get aggression without empathy, ambition without wisdom, structure without soul. When the feminine is ungrounded by the masculine, you get sensitivity without direction, chaos without clarity, inspiration without follow-through. You see this imbalance everywhere, in relationships, in governments, in corporate systems, even in spirituality. But here's the shift. Once you start to consciously balance both principles within yourself, something unlocks. You become a vessel for true creation. Your ideas don't just float, they land. Your discipline doesn't just grind, it flows. You stop relying on force and instead begin working with the natural laws that govern creation. Your masculine sets the intention. Your feminine brings it to life. Together, they make you powerful, not by imitating others, but by expressing wholeness. You can see this dynamic at play in everything. A thought, initiated by your conscious mind, masculine, is received and nurtured by your subconscious, feminine, where it takes root and grows until it manifests into form. This isn't theory, it's mechanics. It's why rituals work, why imagination creates, why the union of intention and emotion is the foundation of all magic, manifestation, and inner alchemy. The principle of gender explains it all. This law also reveals why suppression of either polarity leads to spiritual fragmentation. When people disconnect from the feminine, they lose creativity, empathy, and intuition. When they disconnect from the masculine, they lose direction, boundaries, and focus. Balance doesn't mean 50-50 at all times. It means conscious harmony, knowing which energy to lead with, when to listen, when to act, when to hold, when to release. Gender in the Kybalion is not about your identity. It's about your capacity to create. It's not about being male or female. It's about becoming a complete energetic being who knows how to receive inspiration and bring it to life with precision. Every spiritual teaching that has stood the test of time recognizes this balance: yin and yang, Shiva and Shakti, sun and moon. It's all pointing to the same truth, that creation is not chaos, it's the law. And once you master the principle of gender, you're no longer stumbling through your life, you're conducting it like an orchestra. There's a reason the Kybalion doesn't read like a step-by-step manual. It wasn't written to entertain, it was designed to awaken. It doesn't waste time with soft spiritual comforts or vague affirmations. Instead, it offers precise encoded truths, raw hermetic laws that, once internalized, change how you perceive everything. These teachings aren't poetic, they're practical. They're not suggestions, they're frameworks. And the deeper you go, the more you realize this isn't a book, it's a mirror. It shows you exactly where you're still asleep. These 35 teachings are not numbered inside the text. They're embedded like hidden frequencies. But when you extract them, you begin to see the structure beneath the illusion. Not philosophy, not belief. Law. 1. All is mind. The universe is mental. Everything begins with thought. 2. Reality is a projection of consciousness. Change the projector, not the screen. 3. What you think repeatedly becomes the script you live out. 4. Polarity is illusion. Opposites are the same energy in different degrees. 5. Pain is not punishment. It's feedback from misalignment. 6. Your inner world creates your outer world every time. 7. You are not your emotions. You are the one observing them. 8. What you suppress gains power. What you transmute becomes wisdom. 9. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. 10. As above, so below. Patterns repeat across dimensions. 11. Rhythm is everywhere. Learn the swing and you stop being blindsided. 12. Reaction is slavery. Conscious action is freedom. 13. Your beliefs aren't personal, they were installed. 14. What you resist persists. What you accept, you can shift. 15. Every thought carries a frequency. Your life tunes to that signal. 16. Spiritual growth isn't light, it's heat, pressure, friction. 17. You don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. 18. The subconscious is the womb of reality. Plant wisely. 19. Emotion is energy in motion. Move it, or it moves you. 20. Gender exists in all things. Every idea is a pregnancy waiting to manifest. 21. Knowledge isn't power. Applied knowledge is. 22. Cause and effect is constant. Nothing is random. 23. Fear is a distorted form of focus. Shift the lens. 24. Patterns are the language of the universe. Learn to read them. 25. The world doesn't test you, it reflects you. 26. What you blame, you hand your power to. 27. The present is your point of power, not the past, not the future. 28. Thought plus emotion equals magnetism. That's the formula. 29. You're not here to be good, you're here to be true. 30. Resistance creates inner conflict. Surrender reveals alignment. 31. Success is internal harmony made visible. 32. Miracles are just aligned action within law. 33. The Kybalion isn't a secret anymore, but most still won't see. 34. Your reality is not solid, it's scripted. Reroute the code. And lastly, 35. You are the lock. You are the key. These truths don't just sound good. They expose everything you've been taught to ignore. Most people don't see them because they're looking for permission instead of power. But the Kybalion isn't about waiting. It's about remembering. You don't need another guru, another ritual, or another spiritual high. You need to internalize these laws and live by them, not once in a while, but every day, especially when it's uncomfortable. The Kybalion isn't a book for the masses. It never was. It's a manual for those ready to take responsibility for their energy, their focus, and their creation. These 35 truths are not just knowledge, they are activations. Each one is a doorway, waiting for you to walk through it with full awareness. Because once you do, there's no turning back. You stop hoping for life to change. You start changing the life you create. You were never meant to be powerful. Not in this world. Not in the system that raised you, trained you, and boxed you into a life of silent obedience. The moment you truly realize that the principles in the Kybalion were not just esoteric musings but tools for actual, spiritual sovereignty, everything shifts. You start to see the design. The suppression wasn't accidental. These teachings were hidden for the same reason anything is hidden, because they threatened the ones in control. Sovereignty means ownership of the self. It means no external structure, no belief system, no institution, no authority gets to dictate your inner reality. But a person who understands how to create their own outcomes, regulate their own emotions, align with the universal laws, and manifest their will, that person is impossible to control. That person doesn't need saving, fixing, or governing. That person is dangerous to the systems built on dependency, distraction, and fear. And that's why you were handed dogma instead of law. Religion offered salvation, not alignment. Science reduced consciousness to neurons. Education trained you to repeat, not to realize. None of it was designed to make you sovereign. It was designed to make you manageable. So instead of teaching you that thought is power, they taught you to worship thought as intellect, to live in your head and fear your feelings. Instead of showing you the rhythmic cycles of life, they convinced you that your lowest moments were personal failures. Instead of revealing the true function of emotion and polarity, they labeled you too sensitive when you felt too deeply, and cold when you withdrew. Instead of giving you the keys to energy, they buried the entire vehicle and left you staring at the road, lost. But here's what they didn't expect. You waking up. You right now, reading this, watching this, hearing this, and remembering. Not learning something new, but recognizing something ancient in your bones. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about reclaiming the version of you that was buried beneath decades of programming. That's what the Kybalion does. It doesn't preach. It reminds. It's not trying to convert you into a believer. It's showing you that belief is optional when you live by law. These laws don't care what you think about them. They don't reward you for obeying, and they don't punish you for ignorance. They simply reflect. Reality is a mirror. What you project, it reflects. What you vibrate, it matches. This is true whether you're aware of it or not. That's the real secret. This has always been happening. Your power didn't just arrive. It was never gone. You were just trained to ignore it, deny it, mistrust it. Now you know. Now it's in your hands. Sovereignty isn't a feeling. It's a choice, a practice, a daily, uncomfortable commitment to live with awareness when it would be easier to fall asleep again. But the moment you choose to align, to embody these laws instead of just intellectualizing them, you become unshakable. Not perfect, not enlightened, but anchored. Because you know the rules of the game, and you're no longer playing by someone else's design. This is why it was hidden. Because the truth isn't chaotic, it's liberating. And the moment enough people wake up to that truth, the old systems collapse. Not through war or rebellion, but through mass realignment. You stop feeding what no longer serves you. You unplug from the illusion. You stop chasing approval. You stop blaming fate. You start creating with intention. That's sovereignty. That's why they feared this knowledge. And that's exactly why it's time to use it. The truth is never really hidden, it's just buried under noise. And once you've seen it, once the illusion cracks, you can't go back. The Kybalion doesn't hand you a set of comforting ideas to believe in. It gives you the raw mechanics of existence, stripped of dogma, stripped of sentimentality. It shows you that reality is structured, ordered, intelligent, and that you are part of that intelligence, not separate from it. When you live by these laws, you're no longer reacting to the world. You're generating it. And that's not spirituality. That's design. Most people are trying to fix their lives by changing the surface, new job, new partner, new location, new routine. But without shifting the internal architecture, the pattern repeats. That's why it feels like you're looping. Because you are. You're cycling through unexamined mental vibrations, emotional programs, and energetic outputs that are bound by law to recreate themselves until you make a different choice. Not a louder choice, a cleaner one that aligns with the laws. You've now seen the map. The 7 principles of the Kybalion are not esoteric trivia. They are the scaffolding of creation. Mentalism teaches that all begins in the mind. Correspondence shows that patterns mirror across levels. Vibration reveals that nothing is still. Everything moves. Polarity exposes the illusion of opposites. Rhythm makes sense of your highs and lows. Cause and effect reveals that nothing happens without a seed. And gender shows how all creation is born through inner union. When you live by these laws, you don't need to control reality. You cooperate with it. You move with the flow, not because you're passive, but because you're precise. You no longer fight your emotions. You transmute them. You don't chase outcomes. You embody states. And from that space, manifestation isn't something you try to do. It becomes inevitable. Because when your inner world matches the frequency of what you want, the outer world responds like an echo. It's not magic. It's not a coincidence. It's the law. But this isn't where the journey ends. This is the beginning of conscious life. Most people exist on autopilot, unknowingly reinforcing the very patterns they want to escape. But you're not most people. You've made it this far. You've felt the truth in your bones. Now the question is, what will you do with it? Don't let this awareness fade into just another moment of inspiration. Take it further. Go deeper. Join our free Insights Academy newsletter, where we share the teachings we can't always speak on publicly. You'll also receive a full digital copy of the Kybalion, free for a limited time. It's not a reward, it's a responsibility. And if you're not in, you're missing more than knowledge. You're missing the next step. This work isn't about becoming someone else. It's about peeling away everything that's not really you. It's about moving with reality, not against it. Reclaiming your time, your energy, your mind. It's about remembering that you're not here to be saved. You're here to create, not from desperation, but from clarity, from alignment, from law. Because once you live by truth, the old rules lose their grip. The systems that needed you asleep begin to crumble under the weight of your awareness. And what rises in their place? Something real, something sovereign, something you build, not out of fear, but from the absolute knowing that you were always the architect. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."